Hey guys, what's up? This is Panzer Dragon, and today we'll be doing 10 tips on improving as a mid laner. Now you guys know my main role is jungle, but sometimes I am forced to play mid and I do face against the top tier challenger mids of NA. And other people who play mid, but it's not their main role. And you know, with this video, I can't tell you how to be better at matchups since I don't really know the matchups that well. So this video won't really help you on say mechanics, but it can help you on your decision making. And the second reason why people are good at mid lane is because they know the kill potential on their enemy, which is honestly the biggest thing you gotta learn, but you'll learn that by yourself or watching other videos. Anyways, let's get this video started. So first off, I want to start off with the mindset of having an assassin. So tip number 1, generally for assassins, they love to roam and feed off other lanes. They generally aren't the best laners, and the only way to win against their lane is to usually snowball against them. So their way of winning is to find kills around the map, or as you call picks. So let's take Talon for an example. So his early game isn't the best laning for sure, and he can definitely have a hard time against say people like Syndra. But once he's out of his early game, and once he hits level 6, he can roam to other lanes and get kills off that, as he does provide a lot of CC and mobility and damage. Then he can like snowball over his lane or just wave clear and keep roaming. And yeah, that's a mindset I have when playing high mobility assassins like Talon and Akali. And even people like Lissandra and Syndra who don't have the greatest mobility, but since they have a lot of burst damage and CC, they're pretty good at roaming too. But unlike Talon or Akali, Syndra is also a good laner. Now on to tip number 2. Now let's talk about long range mages like Ziggs and Xerath who have long range skills but not a lot of mobility. And they also have the opposite mindset of an assassin. So usually my mindset when using these mages is basically to harass down the enemy laner with my poke, and also at the same time trying to wave clear mid so the enemy is actually forced to stay mid, or risk roaming and losing a wave of minions. And usually I don't really roam as these kind of characters since I'm so limited with my mobility, but if I'm say someone like Ziggs or Xerath, I will definitely roam just a little bit to get in range of my ultimate, and then see if I can still clean up given my limited mobility. But generally, it's just wave clear, poke down your enemy with your spells, and if you can, maybe farm wraiths on the side. A very simple mindset to follow. Now for the next few tips, we'll be going over general laning phase tips, but there will probably be some odd tips now and then. Alright, so first tip, generally when you shove up the lane, you probably want to be doing something else like warding or roaming or just doing your wraiths. Staying in lane and overextending to his tower is really unsafe and can be led to being ganked. Unless you know where the jungler is or you have an escape, I advise you to back away from that tower. So next step is to react to things going on the map. Even though I did say that you should shove your lane before doing anything else, sometimes there are just situations where you have to react instantly and not shove it all the way. So if something's happening on the map and your team needs you, you should prioritize helping your team before shoving your lane out. Basically what I'm trying to say is always have that map awareness and react to things that are happening around the map. So next tip is, when your lane is MIA or dead, shove to their tower. The reason you do this is because you want the enemy to miss the creep wave, so they do miss potential experience and gold. Obviously there's going to be situations where he is roaming and going to other lanes, but say you can't stop him or follow him, you probably just want to tell your team that he's MIA and he could be heading top or bottom, depending wherever you think he's going. And then you just shove out the lane to force him back. Next step, every time you kill the enemy and shove into his tower, you probably want to recall or time your back so you make it for the next creep wave. Let's say you do stay after you've killed him, do take note that the enemy has bought his items since he has died, and even though you're up levels on him, he's probably up items on you. So it is best to get items and get an advantage over him. An exception would be something like you have mana and hit points still. Next tip, if you see a potential dive kill, roam to it. Alright, so in a situation like this one, where I guess you can say enemies are killable, you should probably go around that area and pressure it. Now there are multiple scenarios that can happen when you roam to a situation like this. So first off, they can see you coming if they have wards around the map, but that doesn't matter because you can still get a tower off them leaving. In the best case scenario, they don't leave and you dive them while getting a tower at the same time. And so as a mid laner, you should always be looking for these pressuring moments onto enemy lanes so that you can obtain objectives or even pick up a few kills for yourself. Now there are a few scenarios where you probably not want to do this. For one, maybe your team doesn't need you and you can just stay middle. Like, they can get the objective themselves and tower dive too. But if their mid laner roams first and makes that situation into a 2v3, you should probably follow him if you can win a 3v3. Otherwise, your team might lose that fight. Alright, so when you are in side lanes or whatever, try and shove them and then roam to your team. This is a tip in general, but yeah, usually you want to shove your towers before doing a fight or doing something with your team. This way, the enemy is at a disadvantage since they can't really get any objectives around the map and they have to catch the wave or they lose a lot. Alright, so next tip, when you're doing an objective, try to zone off the enemies. Usually when you have an objective, you usually have an advantage over the enemy when doing it. And so your job is to zone off the enemies who try and come and contest it so that they don't, fight while you're taking damage from the dragon, or if the enemy jungler is coming around it, you don't want them to smite it and steal it. And so it's better to use all your skills onto the enemy instead of doing DPS to the objective. Unless the enemy is all dead. Alright, next tip, take note of where the enemy jungler was last spotted. This means you want to avoid the side that the enemy jungler was last spotted on, so that's going to be harder for him to gank since he is distances away from you. And generally, if you do know which side the enemy jungler is on, you probably want to ward that side, just in case that he comes back around the same area. Maybe after like 30 seconds of him not showing up on the map again is when you can consider that he's kind of MIA, and then you can just stick to staying back in the middle. In this clip, I actually don't show that I do this trick because I thought the ward that I placed earlier would cover me, and so as you can see, if I didn't pull off this weird juke, I would have probably died. And if I just stayed bot side, I probably could have just ran into my jungle and avoided that gank entirely. Next, we'll be going over ward placement tips. Alright, so basically you want to put pink wards on your side of the map. This is because it's harder for the enemy to take it out, as you can probably defend that pink ward and get there faster than the enemy laner. So it puts the enemy jungler in a really bad position if they want to take it out, thus granting you permanent vision until it's taken out or the enemy gets control of that area somehow. Now if you're on purple side, the wards are in different places. You should either put a pink ward in this place or put a pink ward in this bush. Pick one of the two and let your jungler do the other pink ward. Now for regular sight wards, you can put one here as it does grant you vision of the river. Another good ward to do is right here as it does tell you which side the enemy jungler is on. Or you can do a deep ward into their wraiths so it does show them that whenever they're doing wraiths, thus telling you which side they are currently on and to avoid. This also ignores the vision ward that could be in their bush, so they would need a sweeper to, well, get rid of that ward. Oh, and one last tip is to ward the top side of your lane around when you hit level 2. Junglers are usually done their double buffs around 3 minutes, and they usually start bot side, and so they will be anxious to gank something right after the double buffs. Anyways, that's all the tips I have for today. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Hopefully you guys improve upon this, and yeah, you're one step closer to becoming a better mid laner. Hopefully. I didn't go over mechanics, but at least your decision making can go better with mid. And if you haven't already, check out my other videos such as 20 tips to help improve as an AD carry and 10 tips to help improve as a top laner. And in the future, I will do a 10 tips or 20 tips on how to improve as a jungler 2014 edition. Anyways, thank you guys for watching. I'm Panzer Dragon, and I'll see you guys next time.